My name is Chris Kydd. My title is publisher of the Coast News Group. That's a title that I took on recently, was awarded after being associate publisher for 5 or 10 years.
Welcome back to the Same Business, Different Day podcast. I am your host, Zeke Corley, and I'm excited to bring you another special guest today. You know, what's very interesting about it, and you guys know this, we're about inspiring entrepreneurs. You guys have heard it all before, but we really are. We're really about telling the journeys that our guests have been through to reach the success that they have. And it's a celebration, obviously. That's why we sit around and we sip a little bit of wine and we talk it through. So I'm excited to go on this journey with my friend today, Chris Kydd. So Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Zeke. Great to be here, man.
And we just cleaned glasses and I didn't sip yet. So let me get that in.
You're busy introducing me, which I appreciate. And I'm glad to be part of the celebration.
Yes, sir.
Let's celebrate, man.
Let's do it. You know, one of the, so when we talk to a lot of folks, right, about these journeys, there are different little pivotal moments that brought them to where they are. And what's very special, and we're not going to get fully into it right now, but what's very special that you and I have in common is that we come from family business.
Yep.
Right. And so when it comes to taking over family business, however you get it, inherited or, buy it or however it is, there's something there that's real meaningful. There's something there that's powerful that you want to propel into the next level.
Agreed.
And just like what you just said to me, my dad was my hero, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so, but let's start from the beginning. Okay. Where were you born?
I was born in Newburyport, Massachusetts.
Okay.
That's right. But around 3 years old, my father came to San Diego, chasing my mom down. To take his job as a father seriously and create a stable life for me. He didn't have that. So I was born there, but raised in Encinitas.
You were raised in Encinitas. So your mom was in Encinitas?
My mom was in San Diego.
Okay.
They were divorced at that point and they lived separately, but she was in San Diego at the time and I'd spend weekends with her and grew up with my dad in Encinitas, a couple blocks from Moonlight Beach. Very blessed to be there.
Yeah.
We were really lucky to get a cool little beach house there for a while. $1,000 rent. From maybe 1983 until about 4 or 5 years ago when unfortunately my dad had to move out of that house. But he's in Oceanside now.
Those were the good days, man.
Those were the good days,
I wish I could have bought that house there. What's it selling for now? What do you think it's selling for now?
It was 2 point something. I saw it go on sale recently.
Okay.
And I went across the street where I had my name carved in the sidewalk from 1988.
Yes,
looked
sir.
across and saw what they were doing with it.
Yeah.
Made me want to cry a little bit, but you move onward and upward, right? So you roll with it, and I'm building my own little family in San Marcos. My dad's pretty close in Oceanside, so we're still holding it down here in North County.
Wonderful, wonderful. My dad's still around too, man, and blessed to the family. So, you have any ideas, thoughts about what you wanted to be when you grew up?
My first thought, a little silly, but I was watching a Vons commercial or something, and I saw how much fun the guy pushing the broom had. He was dancing over the broom, singing, and there was this magical moment with my dad after school where he'd pick me up and go to the grocery store. So my first thought was, I want to be a grocery store clerk, but quickly grew out of that when I started to realize that I get to carve my own future. Then I had sort of some unrealistic ones.
Wait. Don't glance over this because I like this. Wait a minute, you want to be a grocery store clerk because it made your dad laugh?
No. I may have breezed through that too quick. It was really a both how much fun it looked on the commercial. I was still susceptible a little more than I am now and as a marketing professional to that messaging. But also there was a special time after I would get picked up from Little League or school where my dad, who was usually busy trying to build the Coast News and build this thing, he didn't have a lot of time. I had his full attention for a short period when we would shop after he picked me up before I went home and jumped on my Nintendo or whatever it was.
I love this story.
So part of that just gave me a warm feeling for the people that were a part of the grocery store. And it was just a family little ritual that I look back on when I could tell my dad crazy stuff about my day, like 100 plus 100 equals a million because, just silly little kid stuff. And I still have those memories in my mind. And as my dad gets older and I'm raising my own kids, I look back on them fondly. And I hadn't thought about it till today, actually. No one's asked me that question in a long time.
That's beautiful. I hope you have a good level of respect for the grocery store clerks when you go through the store nowadays, too.
Absolutely. I let them beat on me all the time, man. I don't hit back.
That's dope, man. When I think back to some of the earlier episodes, one of my favorite, and it's actually, I think it might have been the first or second episode we ever released, the one that shocked me the most, next to this one, about what you wanted to be when you grew up. She wanted to be a school bus driver. But that was because she saw, all these happy kids getting carted here and there and everything. And she turned into a soccer mom eventually, but, and much more than a soccer mom. Let me, Noelle, with all due respect. But I really like that grocery store clerk. That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. Okay. So, siblings?
I have a half brother on my mom's side. He's a great man. His name's Richard Kydd.
Okay.
And he's in marketing and SEO. He lives in Kentucky now with his family.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And you got kids now too, right?
I have 2 daughters. My oldest, Melanie, is a senior in high school at High Tech High in San Marcos. She's going on to study business after. And my youngest daughter's 12. Her name is Luna. And she just finished her guitar lesson at Leading Note Studios, and I don't know what she's going to be. I know she's going to be a handful, but I'm not sure what she wants to be.
No, hey, buddy, she is a good musician. Leading Note Studios is awesome. We've had Camille Hastings on the show.
Amazing woman. I would endorse that business up and down, left and right, all day long.
100%.
It's so good. If you have kids, I say check it out because I wanted to get my daughter in earlier, both my daughters, but they didn't really show an interest in music. So when I saw that twinkle, the guitar came out on Christmas, and now we got her in lessons.
Beautiful.
Yeah, here
Beautiful.
we are.
Okay, so what early jobs?
Early jobs.
You remember your first job?
What was my first job?
I can tell you some of the many the usuals, right? You get some paper routes. We get some mowing lawns. But my first one, when I was 14, I worked at a sandwich shop. I worked at Togo's a sandwich shop when I was 14. I did mow lawns first. Now I should take that back, but go ahead.
Well, my dad hired me first. He wanted to teach me work ethic. So I got my allowance and I'm picking up oranges, mowing the lawn, mopping the floor, just helping me appreciate the value of money.
So he hired you to do that around the house?
At home. But one of my first jobs was, in fact, with the Coast News. Not as a paper boy, but auditing some of the routes, making sure that we were delivering the right amount of papers and they were in good positions at all of the distribution locations.
Okay.
In high school, I also became a part of the Coast News production team. This is at the time when scanners were big and we really didn't have the technology where it is now. I was scanning photographs for real estate ads and doing pagination and paste up and layout the old school way, with an X-Acto knife and a wax machine and we had some old Mac computers and so I did that for a while.
Wow. Attention to detail had to be insane at that.
There's a process, right? And if you follow it well, but yeah, you're sticking things on manually, not with the computer application. So things can go wrong, and they did sometimes, and there's some funny stories there. My first career on my own, outside of family and all that, was when I was in college, and during the summertime, I took some jobs on through a temp agency, and got a chance to jump in the frying pan in different spaces, different, and I got a lot of experience out of that. I really liked that. One of them being with Inamed Corporation I went to UCSB.
Yes, sir.
And there was a company right there called Inamed. They manufactured breast implants, some other things.
Okay.
And I got a chance to work in the IT department, skip around and be a part of that. So that was a great experience. And then somewhere along the line, my father called me and said, I need your help. And he was firing all the salespeople, and he said, come work for the family business. And it felt right. I was done with my studies, and I answered the call, came down.
Okay, so this feels like another parallel. So here's a question I got for you,
okay,
right?
Hit me.
So again, like I said, sandwich shop I worked at, went and worked at the radio station. I graduated high school at 16. So then I wound up at San Jose State working at the radio station there. Now, during that time, I mean, I wasn't getting paid to work in radio. That was a hobby. That was a passion. Free concerts. Like, I couldn't complain.
You become a hero.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. The call-in lines were on fire, to talk to me. So that was good. That was cool. Awesome. But I was also working for my dad at that. Marketing type stuff, right? Passing out flyers, going different places, and doing the marketing work for the insurance brokerage, which was an amazing insurance brokerage, very strong, Network One Insurance up in the Bay Area, Santa Clara. I'm only telling you this story to say that when I finally left there, I hated working for him. I thought he was, one of the worst managers that ever existed. It was super, super stressful. And it wasn't until after I had gone off into the corporate world and in other businesses that I came back. I'm more mature. He understood some differences in his management style, or at least how to manage me or manage other people. You have to understand other people.
Your son, too. It's your son. You can't fully remove yourself from it.
And I still lived with him, too. So he's banging on the door with his rings every morning, like, hey, I'm up. Why aren't you up? Let's go get some business. And I'm like, I'm trying to sleep. But, I was on the radio all night. I'm a kid. I don't want to I don't want to be you yet. And here I am now since 2003. I've been 21 years in the business with him, and it's awesome. So tell me about that, what you learned during that time off.
There are a lot of parallels, some differences. I think ultimately, if this is a confession, if I hadn't been my dad's son, I probably wouldn't have made it in this business. I say that because I just hadn't matured to a level that really is required of a responsible advertising executive, advertising manager, associate publisher. And I don't know, drinking, partying, things like that, coming in not really in great shape, I would have fired me. And that reality became clear, and I chose at that point to take life a little more seriously and take my career a little more seriously. So, but remind me of the question, Zeke.
No, I just want to know, during that gap, right, when you worked for him before to when you worked for him, or when you took over business after the fact, you said you had other businesses that you were working for.
That's right.
What did you learn during that time?
I actually developed skills that became valuable for my dad. One of them was sales. I didn't mention, one of the temp jobs I took was with the MDA, Muscular Dystrophy Association, where you may have gotten the call where, excuse me, sir, but you're going to be placed under arrest for having a big heart. Yeah, that's right. We're going to lock you up, and you're going to call all your friends and contacts and, raise bail, which is actually going to be for the Muscular Dystrophy Association. And so I got some sales experience.
So you remember your script?
a little bit. Yeah. I remember my sixth grade White Rabbit, song from Alice in Wonderland. Unfortunately, I'm cursed with a good memory, but we do. So the skills I brought back, some IT work really helped me. And I did have a different perspective coming back. Because of just my mind as a 20-year-old at the time. It's different than when you're 15, 16, working after school. So I could appreciate what he did more. And I also understood more the value of what a newspaper does for a community.
Yeah.
And so it felt like I was part of something cool instead of just trying to make some money to go off and be myself.
Yeah.
It totally changed my why I wanted to be a part of it.
What were you studying at UCSB?
Started in engineering.
Okay.
And
so you didn't want to do anything like what your dad was doing. I know he's got a science background as well, though, doesn't he?
He does. He has an MBA and a chemistry major and a science background. Absolutely, he does. But I think it was really my grades, my aptitude in math and science that kind of got me that direction. But it wasn't like I had a plan or a career path that I was following. It's okay. How do I apply my skills in the next phase in my learning career? But I wasn't happy. I was good at the stuff, but I didn't like the engineering part. I didn't like learning Fortran and C++ languages and the people. I looked around. I wanted to have a social relationship with my work, and they were just, Steve Urkel's all over the place. And I I wasn't happy. So I asked the dean, please let me out. She's like, no, this is where you belong. A couple more semesters. If you're still not happy, I'll let you out. So I went on to global studies.
Okay.
Which after a couple summer school sessions, I was able to get out still in 4 years and make that transition to a new major and make it work for me. They make you choose an area of study, whether it's like a region of the world. I chose Latin America.
Okay.
And studied abroad in Spain and learned Spanish. I'm bilingual. And I also focused on socioeconomics and politics. So that gave me a chance to understand the forces of globalization and have more context for understanding a lot of the geopolitical news that I have. And, when I would go down Mexico with my friends on vacation, I could understand the contrast and, what I was seeing a little better.
Yeah.
And that really started another voyage of just learning. I love to learn.
Yeah.
Like when I go home, if I have an hour or two to spare time, I'm gardening, of course I'm taking care of my family, my responsibilities, but I am just geeking out on learning, taking on podcasts or old books and things like that.
Yeah. Well, that also even helps still in your industry today, right? Because it's information based, and you have a great memory, as you just mentioned. So you can put that to use. Right?
Absolutely. There's a difference. So we are kind of focused local, and my interest is kind of on the global.
I get that.
But the same principles apply. And right now, I think, especially with the madness in the geopolitical atmosphere, to make sure we preserve some sanity on the local level is kind of the battleground right now.
Okay.
So as I sort of loosely oversee our editorial efforts and things like that, I do have that global studies knowledge that I can kind of use to understand better locally. But yeah.
Tell us, okay, so since we're getting into that now, let's get into the Coast News and let's get into, tell it, just look into the camera, give your name, your title, and what it is that you do.
I'm Jeff.
And I'm Jeff.
And we're the hosts of I Like Beer, the podcast. Teachers by day, beer drinkers by night.
We promote local breweries. We toast, roast, and pour one out for all things beer and life related.
Come play beer or not a beer with us.
Find us wherever you get your podcasts at I Like Beer, the podcast.
This podcast is brought to you by YourInsurancePlace.com. Owning a business is hard work. You put your blood, sweat, and tears into it every single day. You need a partner who understands the ins and outs of insuring small to medium-sized businesses. For over 40 years, our California Property and Casualty Insurance Agency has insured businesses just like yours. We've seen it all, and we've learned a thing or two about what it takes to keep your business protected. That's why we offer free policy assessments. We'll take a look at your policy and let you know if there are any gaps in your coverage. Let us help you to protect what you've worked so hard to build. YourInsurancePlace.com.
Welcome to Velocity, the Vista Chamber podcast, where we dive deep into Vista's heartbeat. Join engaging conversations with local heroes, movers, shakers, and changemakers shaping Vista's spirit. Tune in anytime, anywhere for a personalized connection to community stories. Velocity goes beyond info. It's a bridge connecting Vista's diverse voices. Hosted by me, Chamber CEO Rachel Beld, powered by the Vista Chamber of Commerce, your go-to for the heartbeat of Vista's vibrant community.
My name is Chris Kydd. My title is Publisher of the Coast News Group. That's a title that I took on recently, was awarded after being associate publisher for 5 or 10 years.
I love it. So let's get back into what you were just saying about the local conversation, right? Because don't you think that even though, even if you try to think globally and you try to put out a newspaper that's local, even some of that is getting a little bit more, everybody's kind of playing the game now. Am I wrong?
The game, the local game?
Even locally, the political game is bigger than it used to be.
Yes, absolutely. Because honestly, most politicians are power hungry people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that their ambitions are to work their way through the local up to the regional or state level and then federal. So yeah, it's our coverage of local politics is vital, and it's one of the main things that makes us different than your average little community paper.
But how do you navigate it?
How do we navigate it? Our principles are just to be objective, right? And so right now in this polarized world, politically, right? and I think most people understand what I mean by that.
Mhm.
We have to be careful. My dad would endorse candidates and maybe come out on issues. I make sure that as publisher, we do not endorse
Okay.
candidates. And if we do come out in support of an issue, we do so in a very inclusive way. That's not the right word. In a way that's not going to be interpreted as right or left, because we want this to be everybody's community paper.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the tribalism of today, we could easily be labeled far right or far left. If my opinions came through the paper, people would label me one or the other.
That's right.
So I intentionally do not use the paper as a vehicle to validate my own thoughts and feelings.
Right.
We try to host the conversation on our opinion page and only on our opinion page, and keep that bias out of the regular reporting. Yeah. Of course, there's a natural bias in anything you touch, right? Because we have our own experiences we bring to the table, but we're very conscious of that, and we try hard to not push anyone away, because they feel like by supporting our advertisers or supporting us, they're going against their own political interest.
Well, I mean, full disclosure, I was born in 1974. I grew up in an age when people were reading the newspaper and people thought that they were getting the straight up news when they were reading the paper. Now you've got social media, you got information coming in from so many different places. And that's great that you're saying that, you're not trying to, come in here and pick sides. You're trying to give the information to the people, right?
Yeah, in a world where fake news is prevalent and propaganda is everywhere disguised as news, it's a refreshing to be able to go to your local paper and get a fair deal, if you will, and get both sides of the story, where the adjectives are removed from the, it's not, we're not talking about the best chamber when we talk about Vista. We're just talking about the Vista chamber. It may be the best, but that's an opinion. Yeah. So there's a lot of care that goes into continuing to make that welcome. And that's going to be even more true and more difficult to straddle that line as we go through this election cycle. People reach out to us. They want to take advantage of their relationships with the individuals on the staff to get, additional exposure from our news team. We really want to give everybody a fair opportunity to access.
I love it. Now, speaking of chambers, and speaking of your paper, I understand that you're working closely with the chambers.
Oh, yeah.
And you like working with. I can tell you from my perspective that the chambers are happy to see when you come around, and they like working with you as well. So, how does that relate? How did that relationship start? And how does that work?
Obviously, the first instinct when you're a salesperson is to go get in front of businesses, and the chambers were an obvious place to network and meet people. That's how it started. But it became a little, just going and sharing cards, maybe following up, wasn't enough for me at a certain point. I wasn't ready to join as a board member or another way. So one of the best things I could offer was at one point was access to our audience. And rather than hope that if the chamber submits a ribbon cutting photo that it gets in the paper, about a year ago, we decided to manage it like I do my ads, where I schedule the space out and I treat it like an ad. That gives me full control. And basically the Encinitas and the San Marcos Chamber now have an ongoing presence in our newspapers where they can showcase members and tell the story of their members. And for the most part, it's a Q&A format where our readers can now learn about businesses in the community, and the member gets exposure. They get that online with backlinks, some SEO value. And this is just a gift that, sure, it's a way to engage with these businesses, but it's also a way to have content that's relevant to give our readers and to stoke out our local chambers. And I hope we can scale that across. It's called Chamber Chatter.
Okay.
And I hope that we can invite Vista and other chambers to participate, because it's a win-win. We get good local content. They get added value for their members. And then that's what I want to do in the world, is carve out a million win-wins.
I love it. Hey, man, I like that. That's a good one.
Let's do it.
That's what I want to do, is carve out
today
a
is a
million
win-win.
win-wins. I appreciate you being here, and I can help you with the Vista Chamber situation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll do it.
Back. Yeah,
we'll do it. It makes a lot of sense.
Yes,
we have the reading. Does. We have the audience. They're coming.
Okay.
They respect us. We've been around since 1987. That's almost 38 years. And we haven't lost the trust of the community like many of the other news organizations, TV, media, by falling into that propaganda realm, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. So along those lines, when we talk, let's say, the various forms of media, the various ways that people get their information. I'm not trying to be, trying to create headlines, no pun intended with that, but is that media, is paper dead?
Thank you for asking that question. And that idea was out there more than 10 years ago. Newspaper's dead. We have to innovate and we have to adapt, right?
Okay.
We were early adopters to the internet by posting our content there and have developed significant audience. We have over 200,000 monthly visitors to our website. We have social media audience, an email audience, push notifications. So we've had to roll with the punches, if you will, and adapt. But there's strength in traditional media. That credibility part, it can't change in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
It's out there, right?
Yeah.
There's also a responsibility to serve certain age segments that aren't as savvy online.
Okay.
And that's really when it comes to our mission too, to keep people connected, to know that we're providing valuable information to this group that can't get it anywhere anymore is really meaningful.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to advertisers who have a hard time targeting that audience on digital, through digital, even with all the tools, all the tools that are out there, the newspaper's a great way to catch them when they're at their most receptive. They come to take in content from the community. There's your ad, speaks to them, they're going to respond. So I think there's a future. I know, in fact, it's not dead. We've just had to also team up against the big guys. There's a lot of consolidation still happening in our industry. And even in our own little world, we have such as the Picket Fence Media, who have the up in San Clemente and Dana Point, just sold to a larger media group, Times Media. You see that happening. You see major challenges and smoke signals from our partners, but we're teaming up together to be stronger together, to do business with each other, to share resources, and together we hit certain thresholds where now we can attract bigger national advertisers.
I like this conversation. And specifically the reason I like it is because you're talking about teaming up. I was just having a conversation earlier today at a lunch meeting where I was talking about how some folks, they get into a room, like even a networking type situation, and there are people in the same industry as them, and they look at it as competitors. But you're saying you could team up and make something bigger,
Yeah, it's an attitude that I've carried with me my whole time. It's how can we work together towards a common goal? And it serves me, it helps me sleep at night, helps me not watch my back.
Right.
So it makes more sense, and we're stronger together. And I know that I could pick up the phone to any of our fellow partners and, ask a favor or, ask for some advice, and they're there for us. So we've built a little community together, and sure glad that's there, because it's awful hard sometimes when you don't have someone to reach out to.
You don't want to be alone.
Even to commiserate with a little bit.
That's
man.
it.
Hey,
that's it.
Dealing with this problem. You're dealing with it too, right? Let's cry together.
Yeah. Or I'm dealing with this problem. You're dealing with that problem.
How did you solve it?
Yeah, exactly. So I love it, man. I love it because that's the kind of information that our listeners would like to hear. They like to hear that they don't have to give up just because they think somebody next to them is stronger or better, or, once they're in the house, I should leave, forget it. You can work together, especially when you got people around you, like with big hearts like yourself.
Well, so thanks, man.
Yeah, man. No, I mean it.
Thank you.
I mean it. And every time I've ever spoken to you, I can tell every word that comes out of your mouth is genuine. So I appreciate you being here, really.
Thank you. That's all I want to be known as, is, a nice guy that cared. Truly.
I believe
that's a great enough legacy for me,
I believe
it really is.
Okay, so I got a funny question for you.
Yeah.
Okay, because I feel like this is another thing that we have in common. Industry-wise, now I don't know, I shouldn't say I know a lot of newspaper publishers, but I know a lot of business owners. I would say in my industry, I come off as different. I don't come off as your typical insurance broker. I don't come off as, the straight button-up guy every day. I might come off with a glass of wine in my hand on an afternoon on a Wednesday.
Nothing wrong with that.
I know there's nothing wrong with that. You know there's nothing wrong with that. My business is doing fine. And I know yours is too. And congratulations. Again, a celebration, right?
Cheers.
Yeah, and because that's how you do. And that's also
same business, different day.
It's the reason why the briefcase and the sunglasses are there, because it's the balance of business and pleasure.
Yeah.
Right? So my question for you is, how do you manage your business, run your thing, knowing that you might be not the ordinary, a little quirky, a little different than others? And how would you, what kind of advice? Let me put it a different way. What kind of advice would you give to someone who has the qualifications and ability, one of our listeners who can actually go out there and run a business, but they're not like everybody?
I'm learning to ask for help more, and not to try to do it all on my own. That's where I am at as a professional right now. And we're bringing in an advisory group because I know that I'm not doing a good enough job in certain areas, and I need help to get there so we can continue our work.
Okay. Let's say if every other newspaper publisher in the region was all suit and tie every day walking into an advertisement. And then here comes my friend Chris, with the, the Bermuda shirt, the shorts.
My wife calls it my narco shirt.
Coming in on a skateboard. Like, hey,
you remember when I came to the chamber on a skateboard?
I do remember.
Okay.
Well, I think that's probably a good thing too, to not forget.
In this era, people want authenticity. They want realness. And I give you that. I'm transparent, and it translates to realness. It translates to authenticity by being myself. Ultimately, if I'm not who I am and I put on the show, I'm going to be extremely unhappy over time. So I sleep well and I'm happy because I've been able to continue to be myself within this role. And it's important to me. And that's how I find that balance. Really, it's enjoying it because I don't have to self-censor and all that. I can just share my ideas with the world, which is core to my being. It's just connecting with people. So because I can be myself, that translates in my business to authenticity, which translates to trust, which is the starting point. It's the agar where everything grows, So that's how I look at it. But then back to the first thing, asking for help in areas where I know I'm not equipped. I have to be prepared to ask for help. I hope there's meaning in that answer.
No, I appreciate that answer. I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great way to end the show, man. Thank you very much for being here again, Chris. Like I said, I appreciate if you give everybody your contact information. Let them know where to find you. Let them know about Coast News. Give them any message that you want to give, please.
I want to start, just ask you to support local. And one way to do that is to open the Coast News and find an advertiser there and support them. That's how you can thank us for our work. You can learn more about us and engage with some of our content online at thecoastnews.com or coastnewsgroup.com. Both of those work. We do a contest called The Best of North County. You can go and vote for your favorite businesses at thebestofnorthcounty.com. I can personally be reached by cell phone from 8 to 8 any day, 760-500-0072. And my email address is ckydd@coastnewsgroup.com. That's who I am. That's where you can find me.
Same business, different day, listeners. The authentic one, Chris Kydd. We appreciate you being here, man.
Thank you, man. It was really fun, man.
No, I appreciate it.
It was great.
It wasn't as bad as you thought it was going to be.
No, it wasn't bad. It went quick. I have so much more I want to share.
Let's do it again.
Okay.
Let's do it again.
And if anyone has any questions, hit me up. I'm a human being first. That's one of my mottos. Human first.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. SAMEBIZPOD. That's how you find us at Same Biz Pod, Same Business Different Day Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. All of those platforms are out there. At a Different Day Radio, we've got plenty of great shows that you like. I Like Beer is one of them, and they got a column in your paper as well. Yeah, great people. So once again, I appreciate you all listening. Please like and subscribe, and keep listening. We got more great ones coming.
You.
Peace.